put the ego aside. Let's not flex our muscles and think we're the coolest one. And you don't have to go buy the Mercedes or the Porsche or the whatever. It's a matter of being the right human with the right skill sets to serve your clients, which is really at the cornerstone of what I'm hearing is important to you. Welcome to Loans Elevated, the podcast that brings you the latest industry news, expert interviews, and insightful discussions that will help you stay ahead in this dynamic market. I'm your host, Broch Lassig, and I've spent years in the trenches of the mortgage industry, helping individuals and businesses navigate the complex landscape of real estate financing.
I'm your co-host, TJ Heidenreich, and together, we'll cover a wide range of topics, from business strategies that skyrocket your success to mindset and motivation that fuel your growth.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. So today we are talking about the theme that has to do with mindset. And this is an important theme for people, especially in the mortgage and real estate industry today, because we've frankly been in a recession in our industry for 18 to 24 months. And it has been a grueling grind to stay positive. There's people falling out of the industry every day, needing to find new careers, and it's a tough time. And many people don't want to be falling out of the industry. What our goal is to help you uncover some strategies and tips and hacks on how to overcome the stress that we're all facing in this industry, and hopefully some little gold mines if you're not in the industry that we can pull out of this. So I brought a special guest on the show today. It's a friend of mine that is an absolute crusher. He is a stud realtor, a big real estate investor. He's a coach and mentor to many people in and out of the industry. He's a travel connoisseur. He's got time to do that and lives a great life. And overall, a really, really great guy from what I know to this point in our relationship. So Kyle Tucker, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Broch. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, man. So we want to dive in. Why don't you just quickly give a synopsis of what your story looks like, how you got in the industry. I know that you use this phrase that you're an investor who happens to be a realtor, not a realtor who happens to be an investor. So I think that's kind of like how you got into the business, right?
Yeah.
Share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I think it's so important to recognize that. And I think simply, I guess I have a resistance to the title of being a realtor just because I feel there's a baggage that comes with that.
Yeah.
And so, and that's not ever why I wanted to be in the industry. It's not how I got in the industry. I started as an investor and still am very much to my bones this day, right? So kind of my rise in real estate comes through the tech world, Utah being a pretty hot tech hub. Yep. I worked for two different unicorn companies, worked very, very hard, my workspace was related in the data scientist space. Analyzed data, worked for executive, was in high stake, high stress situations a lot, but I was not the decision maker. I was the counselor or guide to the decision maker, being the executive of these firms. And we did different branches, different arms of the companies. And that really translated as I, A, started investing, but B, started helping investors. I'm not the decision maker. They're the decision maker. And it's my job to bring as much information as possible so that they can have the pieces to navigate, the waters that we're in. Not only does my work experience help me, in today's work that I do, but also on my investment journey, I, fortunately had enough capital. And, those that know my story, I spent a lot of time keeping expenses flat and raising income over time, whether it was job promotions, side hustles, whatever it was. Yep. I call this the gap. And we grew the gap over time and we just kept expenses steady. This was so key. It was not a keep up with the Joneses mindset. And that money just kept recycling into investments up until the point that it ended up turning out to be quite large. And I had, some advice from some mentors. It's like, why don't you help other people do this? Like, you've approached it in a very low emotion and very heavy database perspective that could really help others. And so that's what I did. Early COVID, which, seems like yesterday, but it's also, as of now, 4 years ago.
Crazy.
COVID is when I began mentoring and helping others. And I've got several clients that are at 8 or 9 properties now.
Wow.
Myself, we continue to grow. And so I always talk about it. It's not a quick overnight thing, but we can put the work in and we can do it and we can make massive difference in people's lives. So it's a little bit of the story.
That's really cool. Yeah. I'm just now realizing that you and I think we kind of forged a pretty fast and easy friendship from my perspective anyway. It's kind of funny because you're very data driven and analytical and pragmatic. So am I. But we also seem to have a shared passion of helping others recognize how simple it is to amass significant wealth in real estate. And it doesn't have to be as complicated as many people treat it to be.
Yeah, 100%.
That's super cool. I learned some things about you in that intro that I didn't realize. So it seems like some of your mindset, because I mean, honestly, dude, I respect you for your mindset and what you've been able to accomplish. I know that you've amassed a massive portfolio of real estate, but you're also crushing it in sales no matter what. Like, you're just pretty even keel from the outside looking in, even keel. And it's just like, it's like you're a sniper and you've got your eye on the target and it's just like tink, 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 over and over. And maybe that was established through your previous life as a professional in the tech world and an executive in the tech world. Maybe it was baptism by fire. Do you think you learned most of it or all of it there, or is this something natural? What are the tricks that have enabled you to stay calm in the waters? And share a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think I mean, this is a good ask. I talk about, there's a couple things I'll say on this, but I talk about this as an investor. Like, I'd rather own 50% of 2 deals than 100% of 1 deal. And people are like, partnerships, risk. Sure. I mean, set that aside. Let's say we can take care of it. But the biggest thing I am after, and I've been after since day one, and we're talking back when I came out of college, bachelor's, master's degree, like getting to work, is like learning experience. I don't care about the dollar. I care about the growth. From day one, it's been that way, and it still is that way. If I can get into something and sure, I'll sacrifice margin. I'll do whatever it takes so I can learn, because the faster I learn, the faster I get ahead of everybody else. Right. And I think that's just, I don't know, that's just been kind of how I've been built from day one. And honestly, like, you know, the more you're exposed, the more you're able to step into situations and approach them with a very different approach. I think when people see how I approach things and watch me work, they're like, how? At your age, how? Right. And it's like, well, it's because of how many fires I stood in for how long that, like, that was built, right? And I'm still seeking fire to get into, right? Even in the investment sector, like, if I don't know how to coach someone on something, I don't go ask someone or go look it up or chat GPT. I will go do it. Like, I will go do it because I think the psychological and the emotional side of the investment journey is just as important as the mathematical side. Because theoretically, like, anybody can do the math all day. Right. Why is the whole world not just like killing it? Because you have the psychology of the human being. And so, like, if I can't speak, like, oh my gosh, when I did this too, like, at that moment, like, I was so nervous, or this was very stressful, or this part I completely unexpected, right? And it's the human side of business that's so important, and I think is missed. And so I think that might be part 2, is like, you know, really, really getting in those fires and honing the craft to execute, but then also recognizing we're humans in a human existence. So, like, let's look at and do the people part. Right? So
that's super good. Yeah. And the other thing I really respect about you is how grounded you are. That's one thing. We went to lunch, you know, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, and I was shocked. It's rare that I meet people, just period, that are grounded human beings that are focused on that thing. So I honor you for that. And it seems like it's really paid dividends for you and your career. So what I'm hearing you say, and this is probably maybe one of the most important takeaways that anyone that's listening today could pull from this, is your target is not how much money you can make and what the upside is for Kyle. Your target is, how do I become a more capable human from a communication standpoint, an understanding of the situational dynamic standpoint, all of this? That's the focal point, and the money just kind of comes with it, even though you're driven to earn money and create wealth and do this stuff. The focal point is really like, how do you identify the right players that can teach you the skill sets you need to operate well? Because the math is easy, spreadsheets, and frankly, probably at this point, AI can just do all that automatically for us. So how do we behave in the environment? That's what you've been able to learn.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because, you know, and I don't, maybe this is a learning from the tech industry, but I saw, you know, we're Utah and we're new to the tech scene. We're not legacy. We're not Silicon Valley. We're not the Amazons, the Apples, the Googles. But I remember being at these tech companies, and we would get recruits from the Amazons.
Wow.
And they were treated like they could walk on water. And, you know, some of them could, and other ones I'm like, what are they capable of?
Right.
Like, They just were in the right place at the right time. Are they actually the one that drove and make the difference? And so I started to recognize, like, hey, people's accolades and titles and all of that really are not what matters at all. We need to get into like the meat of the people we're working with, and like, what is their skill set, and are they willing to learn? Are they willing to get into the fire, right? And so like, I feel the same way with the industry today. Like, you look out at the realtor industry or the investor industry, there's a lot of flashiness, a lot of like, look at me, check this out. And I think there's a bunch of glass houses. Like, it's so real, because if you can't repeat your success, I've switched industries. I've rebuilt twice and completely gotten to the top of where that space started. So three different career paths at this point have become a top performer in all of those spaces.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's an element of like, you know, I know that we're going to go a little bit into kind of like what's going on macroeconomically and some of that. And the only thing I want to say on this thread is like, I am that, you know, that work putting into me makes me completely not fearful of adjustments and change. It actually gets me excited because it allows opportunity for more market share. And there's other people that, respectfully, I get frustrated that people put us on the same table or the same playing field and say, you're the same. And it's like, no, deep down, we're not the same. Respectfully.
It's a saturated industry, and you get placed.
You know, when I get asked, why would I hire you over this person? And I'm like, that's a tough one, because I want to be respectful. I want to be respectful to all my peers, but like, you will remotely not have the same experience, and I'm not going to sell you on that. They'll probably sell the blank out of you. But I'm here to like go the distance with you, and I know you will be taking care of more with me than most anybody out there, because of the depth of integrity of what we do. Right. So, you know, I think that being said, people get fearful when stuff's going on. And I'm excited. So,
well, and it's kind of funny because like what I'm recognizing there, we'll just speak to the industries that you and I are in. Me doing mortgages, you doing real estate, they're essentially the same industry. And especially with the people that are involved in these industries, it's a very, very low barrier to entry. It's a cyclical and transient type business. A lot of times, if the getting's good, there's tons of people in it. If the getting's bad, a lot of people fall out, and they don't treat it like a career. What I'm finding is that you have just taken the time to focus on learning the skill sets, like we said before. That's like, put the ego aside. Let's not flex our muscles and think we're the coolest one, and you don't have to go buy the Mercedes or the Porsche or the whatever. It's a matter of being the right human with the right skill sets to serve your clients, which is really at the cornerstone of what I'm hearing is important to you. There's so many people that are in the industry, and they're just winging it. They haven't taken the time to do step one that we just talked about. So how do you let the ego down? Like, what are the tips that you can give to these people that are getting in the industry? Like, how do you pull your ego down and say, man, I got to go find the person that is crushing it. I got to go find Kyle, and I've got to go work for Kyle, maybe for an hourly wage, and learn these skill sets. But like, so many people in this industry want the overnight millionaire trick, and they're unwilling to put the efforts in. But if you put the efforts in, you can become a sustained success story. So like, do you have any feedback on what realtors can do to overcome that issue?
Yeah, and I think this message is not only for someone who's new, because you could be new, you could be in the industry for a minute and maybe aren't performing where you want to be. You could be someone who's done really well and is now not doing well. I know very many individuals in each one of those categories. And I mean, you nailed it. This ego thing, it's pretty wild how egocentric this industry can be. It's like mind blowing to me. I come from tech where it's like family and unity and team and teamwork, not me.
And do you think that this issue is the people with the ego that don't have the skill sets, or is it the people with an ego that don't feel approachable to learn? Because maybe in the tech world, the leaders and the rock stars were more approachable than the people in our industry. What do you think that is?
Yeah, and I think it's a precedent. And like, respectfully, like, I know we're here in Utah, and most of our listeners here are probably Utah based, but like, you know, I was talking to a buddy that's not in Utah, and he's a really dear partner of mine. You've actually funded a loan on a project we co-own together. And you know, we were talking about the Utah scene, and he talked about this like heroism or saviorism this vibe that exists in Utah. It's like any strong entrepreneur or brand that you see out there, it's just like this one, and I'm going to be a little bit harsh here, but it's like this one dude.
Yeah.
It's all about them. And how many of these one dudes do we have around in the state?
Right.
There's a whole list of them.
Right.
And it's crazy to me because, like, I've been sitting next to one of these one dudes at a Tony Robbins thing, and that one dude didn't talk to me the entire day.
Wow.
And I'm like, you have quite an ego, my man.
Right.
Like, sorry for being, let me shine your shoes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and this was years ago for me. It's not where I am today. So maybe he'll say something now because maybe he thinks I'll provide him value, but that's messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, humans, anyway, we're going to the ego side, but like, I just feel like what it really comes down to is dropping that ego guard and putting the work in. I cannot tell you how many times an agent, and the list is very long, an agent saying, I want to do what you do. Can you teach me to do what you do? Hey, can I take you to lunch so you can teach me to do what you do? And I say, my boy, my gal, a lunch isn't going to get it done.
Yep. Yep.
A week is not going to get it done. A year is not going to get it done. Until you've been through as many loans as I've been through and as many transactions and designed as many homes. You can't learn this. It's not textbook learning. Right. It's experiential learning.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, from a differentiation standpoint, it is night and day when you have someone, wanting to become better. Even if they come to Kyle Tucker's class, which I don't have one of those, but it's like, you're not going to learn what you have to learn.
Sure. Yeah.
If you want to become really good at this industry, you need to start buying houses yourself. You need to start learning how the ins and outs work yourself. Because I can guarantee you everything you do for yourself, you're going to remember to a much deeper T than anything else you do for anyone else. And that's going to make your value prop so much more because you've lived it. And, like, also respectfully, like, I cannot tell. I've been part of large teams. I've been part of very high performing teams. I'm still part of a high performing team. And if you just look at the history, like, a team with 100 agents, there's 3 of us that own more than a primary residence.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, if the public understood that, they're like, wait, what? You're the professional and you're supposed to know. You're selling me investment properties and you've never bought an investment property? Yeah. That's crazy to me. Right?
That's crazy.
Whereas, like, who would you rather work with? Someone who's never done it and is pretending, or someone who's done, over 300 door transactions? It's so different.
Yeah.
So that's where, I think to the beginner, back to your question, the beginner, the middle, and, someone who's been in the industry for a minute, or someone who's had success and hasn't, isn't feeling that lately, they need to drop the guard and relearn, reinvent. And I even had to do this last year. We had to completely rebuild in 2023. Market was completely different from what we were doing in 2020, 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
But people just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They want to film flashy videos and be cool. And that's not what this industry needs.
And it's so much get rich quick.
Yeah.
Mentality and behavior. That's where the ego comes from. That's where the flashiness comes from.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm hearing you say is, like, have a long-term view, invest in this, create a life out of this, create a legacy out of this by teaching others to do it. And if your mindset is focused there, it will all come in time. Don't rush to it.
I think just to put a little cherry on that, it's like, right now it might feel like we're competing.
Yeah.
I don't compete with people.
Right.
I don't look to the side. I don't look at, like, it is a self journey. And in 5 years and 10 years, there's not, people won't even be able to say we're competing. Right. It's going to be that far of a gap.
Well, and the interesting thing is, you said it, what you're focused on is developing your skill sets, not the numbers, not the closing, not the paycheck, not the dollar amount. It's building your skill sets, and that's you're laser focused on that. So you just naturally become better. Yeah. So focus on that. That is huge.
And to motivate those that maybe are a little bit fixated on the dollar.
Yeah.
Respectfully, and we've seen it, you've read it in a book, you've heard it, like, this is nothing new to anybody. It's just a reminder, is like, I already know, and this is, it's not to flex, but it's like the take home dollar amount on the number 1 team in the state that I'm a part of, I know mine's been the highest consecutively.
Yeah. You, as a realtor on that team, you have been the highest earner on that team.
And my fixation and my focus is not to be that.
But you also, you've been the top earner, but not the top producer per se.
No.
Yeah.
So there's strategy. There's a lot. There's more depth to. I might not have had the highest unit count or the highest volume, but I'm fairly confident I will take home the most because I focused on where does my time pay out the most?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
And where is your focus on what the heck matters?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. That is massive. So one thing before we dive in, going into the long-term focus, clearly you are focused long-term on developing your skill sets to be the best professional you can be. And just now it happens to be a realtor and an investor and a coach to other people that want to be investors.
Yeah.
You also have a long-term focus with your clients. And what you told me is that you're 100% convinced that your clients will win more with you than they will with anyone else that they could meet with or that could represent them as a realtor. How are you so confident in that? Like, is that just you say it and it's an affirmation, so you behave that way, or share with that? Because I think that's something big that people need to recognize is like what is in it, because that's also the crazy thing is not inward facing. That's not Kyle facing. No. That is like, customer, I will do better for you and your family and your legacy than my competitors will. And that's like a subtle shift that people can make.
Yeah. And I think, man, I mean, this is such a deep one, honestly. And this is again, that you can't compete. Mm-hmm. It's respectfully, like, it gets into the lane of, I think about part of the MBA curriculum that I had in my master's program talks about how people commit fraud. And there's a triangle. And if there's pressure on any side of this triangle, that's what can essentially push someone to commit fraud. So it's like, that's really, and this is really a weird way of answering your question, but like, what I'm getting at is someone who commits fraud, normally they're good people. But if you get down underneath, you're like, what went on to cause this to happen? Yeah. So if we get into this question, it's like, what is underlying? What's actually going on? Right? And this is where the layers are I don't know, so important. And number one, this has nothing to do with the script or how much polish or how much training or any of that. Mm-hmm. What really comes down to is you got to fundamentally understand one thing when you work with someone. How do they make money? How do they get paid? And what's their motive to get paid? Right? An agent's going to transact, simply enough. Okay, so we're already counterintuitive to the client's ultimate future success. Mm-hmm.
Because all that matters is the transaction.
All that matters is transaction. Yeah. I can't tell you how many realtors I've heard, listened to, watched that are transaction focused. Mm-hmm. This gets really interesting because two underlying things on that with me is like, number one is I have a portfolio that has taken care of my wife and I very, very well. That's from, investing myself over the years. I built that from income from the tech industry, from my salary, from a W-2. That's not from everybody's commissions. And that's so important to recognize. So number one is I eat tonight whether you do a deal with me or not. Mm-hmm. And I don't, there's not a better way to say that than there's probably 2% of the industry that could say that.
Right.
So right there, me as a human being, understanding certain industries, I'm only now going to work with 2%, period. Because they don't have a personal motive in my business.
Right.
I want them to care about my business for the sake of my business. Mm-hmm. Right? The same way I do with my clients. So number one is I'm going to eat tonight regardless of whether we do this transaction. Mm-hmm. Right? That is absolutely so critical. And so I had number two. Let me see if I can get it back. I went down hard on that number one there. And number two simply is it is a little bit more the front facing, the surface level is like a transaction is great. Mm-hmm. Pay is great. And if a realtor's listening to this, they understand the numbers. Yep. If the public's listening, they're like, they get paid way too much. And at the same time, there's all these people that take a cut. Like I always say, we take home probably a little less than 50 cents on the dollar on a commission. And if you do the math on that, it's hard work to earn your keep, But the important thing there is like to truly do what's best for the client is one thing. And then if I selfishly want to do what's best for me, what's best for me is not one transaction.
Right.
It's not enough to move the needle in my current world. Mm-hmm. To move the needle, we need to do 5. We need to do 10 transactions. Mm-hmm. And so I have to build my brand. I have to start the conversation. I have to meet people in a way that says, you can trust me for 20 years.
Right.
Not, hi, can I help you buy or sell a house? Mm-hmm. Very different mindset. Yeah. And so from day one, initial contact, identity is something that I don't think people realize is so critical from a personal mindset standpoint, but from a public viewpoint. How someone sees you is everything. Mm-hmm. Right? I have really close friends and peers that have not used me as a mentor in their real estate portfolio. And then if you compare our portfolios, mine's like 10x theirs. Mm. But they don't see me as that person because they saw me way back when we were doing XYZ.
So you got the ego coming back into play, which is unfortunate.
Identity, it's like, well, they see me as something else. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But identity to anybody, like the moment a new agent, an experienced agent meets and has contact, it is very important as to, and this is so important. When I say identity, please, and those listening, like, please, it's not artificial identity.
Yeah.
Don't put on your song and dance and try to be something you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be exactly who you are.
Yeah.
And you're going to have more sustainable long-term growth if you are who you are than if you're playing off to be someone that you're not.
That's a thread that comes back from our earlier part in the conversation that I actually forgot to mention, which is what I'm hearing is a thread of vulnerability and authenticity. And like, you've got to just be a regular freaking person and deliver what you can, but then build on your skill sets. So your delivery, what you are able to deliver, is superior, and then you can earn more and build and become something more significant in business. Yeah, that's really good. The other thing I think is another major takeaway, like we talked about. So I think it's vulnerability and authenticity, having a long-term view from the earlier part of the conversation, a long-term view with the relationship with your clients, with the relationship with your business and your plan. But something that I heard you, an undertone of what you just mentioned, which is something that is people in our industries and really generally people in the world, and this is something I'm also passionate about, is they don't understand how to create a budget and live within their means. So the motive behind what they're doing is not pure because they don't have their money in check. So realtors, if you're listening to this, you will be more successful. You'll make more money. You will help more people if you get your money in check first. So focus on it. That's a big deal because that's why you have the confidence to be able to run with these clients. And you don't care if you close a transaction. What you care about is what your business looks like for your customers 10 and 20 years from now. Not, can I be the person that manages the transaction today so I can get a paycheck, which is a critical difference. And it really comes down to you being disciplined enough to manage your finances early on to put you in this position where you don't need that deal to close. So now you can do, the motive is pure. It's for that client, not for you.
Yeah. I mean, universal energetics, right? If you're not practicing a principle and then you're going to go sell that principle, energetically it's felt that you don't live that.
Yeah.
And as much as you might be able to trick one or two people or do this or that, that's fine. But the reality is if you get into it, the agents that are out there killing it, they are trustable human beings. Yeah. And they are people that are willing to go the distance for you. They will fix scenarios. They will personally wear stuff on their sleeve.
They've walked the walk.
100%.
Yep.
I'm even in a scenario right now with a client. It's a little bit different of a scenario, but I have no liability. I have no requirements amongst me. But I was talking to the team that man, I really feel like we should step in and do something here. Because this could derail this family in their investment journey, and they're on unit 5 or 6 or something. Because it's just a challenging situation. They had a challenging situation with one of their rentals. I'm not why would I go in and fix someone's problem? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's not about the dollars. It's about the fact that this family and the waves and ripples that they can make on this planet could be stifled or halted because of this challenging experience, and they don't know how to navigate it. So I feel it's almost of my responsibility to say, hey, I want to lend you a hand. Mm-hmm. If they don't take it, that's fine.
Right.
But I want to extend it because to me, if this, I do what I do because if I had every human being more fiscally responsible, I can't even describe. And I mean, this isn't really what we're supposed to get into today, but I talk about a vision. I don't know if I spoke to you about it, Broch, but I've talked about a vision that I see a world in the future that looks like Avatar.
Okay.
That we live on it's just, we're covered in nature and trees, and we can fly on the backs of whatever those things, banshees, dragon things, and do all this incredible thing and be connected and communicate with trees. And people are like, this Kyle guy's weird. Right? No, but the grounding, the healing, we spend time doing ancestral healing, trauma healing, right?
Yeah.
This is the future I see. The problem is we've never even tried to work on what does a tree, I know it sounds weird, what does a tree feel when you cut it down?
Sure.
I don't know. What does an animal think or feel when XYZ happens? I don't know.
Right.
But we sure as heck, my phone's over here. It's off camera, but it's we've spent how many billions of dollars developing this iPhone?
You're right. Yeah.
And how many armies of humans. So I tend to think if we had our money right on this planet and we weren't in such a scarcity mindset, would we start pouring our attention and energy into.
Our spirit could be pointed towards something
Yeah.
more significant.
You spend 50 years trying to understand the what's going on with, you know, with nature or with, you know, other species, other beings besides us as human beings. Like, that gets exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, people are gonna be like, this guy, man. But, like, I get into that, and it makes me excited.
Yeah. So you just have such a bigger vision.
Yeah, it's like for us to work on money and finance,
Yeah.
you know, and Grant Cardone talks about this, and irrespectful, like, whatever people's opinions are, it doesn't matter that. Let's just take a nugget out of it. He says, money's not important. It's just as important as oxygen.
Mm.
And it's like, wait, what? That's so
Yeah,
paradoxical.
You're right.
But then the explanation there is like, well, you know, if we walked around thinking about breathing all the time, how much less would we do? Would we go on the hike? Would we buy the house at the top of the hill?
Right.
No. And for heaven forbid, if I have to chase a soccer ball down there and I got to think about breathing to come back up the hill, right? And so it's like, but 90% of the United States lives thinking about money every single day. And I can tell you this, once you break that bound and become more in a financially free state, you can operate very, very, very differently.
Right.
And start making an impact on the planet, right? Family is important, yes. And we have a human race that's a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if our numbers aren't right, all we can focus on is our family because we're worried about who's being fed at night.
Scarcity, it's survival. It's
Survival,
not, yeah,
scarcity,
it's not
all of
abundance.
that. So I know that gets like super off track and super deep, but like for me, the financial side feels like a responsibility I have because I feel like I have cracked a code per se that I feel every human being should take on. Yep. And then I ultimately want to live in the future that we can all create together. Sure. That's what motivates me.
Yeah. That's big, dude. That is really cool. We should talk more about that.
Yeah.
So now kind of pivoting back into more real estate. The market has been tough for a good 18 to 24 months. Lots of people are falling out. It's just been rough, and people are depressed. They don't have their money right. There's challenges in relationships, and whether it's among your kids or your spouse or significant other, whatever the case is, and it just keeps getting worse because unfortunately, we can't get the rates to come down. And unfortunately, the NAR and every realtor is at risk of their whole business model changing because of the commission lawsuits that have recently come. Let's speak to what are you doing to keep your mind in check and keep thriving through all of this adversity? Like, I'm getting a sense that you just don't pay attention to the small stuff and you just have a focus on something much bigger. But there's got to be some bite-sized tactical steps that
there are.
The other listeners can take here. Like, how do you not let the noise disrupt your whole future? And how do you stay focused on getting your finances in check and not tripping out about this change? Because frankly, like the way I view it, this happened in lending in 2010 to 2013, and we only had more opportunity and business got better. So I know I can see that from past experience, but there's so many people in scarcity mode. What are some bite-sized tactics these people can take away? The realtors, let's say, listening to the show can take away to perform despite all of this adversity.
Yeah, and I love that you went through that experience in 10 to 13 because I saw you put something out on it that was like, hey, call me realtors if you need support because we went through something similar. Yeah. I'm like, that's exactly what I do with the investors. And all of a sudden I trust you because you did something similar and then we can talk about it. And so the news was so new to me that as I was navigating information, there was so much like doom and gloom and like there was jokes about it. There was all kinds of stuff. People just so like
anger about it.
So much. Yeah. But then like, I saw your comment and I'm like, I'm going to look at how this actually could create an incredible opportunity. Because there were people that came out of your situation on top, and then there was those people that washed out. So I started looking at it from that lens. And, being part of Real Broker, one of the fastest growing, high-paced technological brokerages in the country, like, listening to our president talk about it, like, it was such a grounding. He talked about navigating change with grace. And it's like, there was not panic. There was not smoke screen. It was just like, hey, humans, this is real. It's scary. Let's talk about how to like hedge being scared. Yeah. And it was so, I want to use the word comforting, which is like in a professional industry, like, what do we, what? But he was just like, no, like this is what could come out of this. This is what also could come out of this in this direction. Here's what could come in this direction. So I start looking at like the possibility and I'm like, oh my goodness, this gets exciting for me, for my team, because I know we're in position because I told everybody I talked to in 2023, everyone's like, Kyle, like your numbers are down a little bit. And I'm like, we're building for 2024. And I thought 2024 would have a little bit more sunshine.
Same.
And now it's like maybe 2025 will, maybe 2026. But the reality is like we went into the fire last year and we focused during the fire rather than try to survive. We invested. I remember January last year, I was saying I was putting money and energy into resources to prepare for 2024. Here we are. And if you want tactical things that we can do, and I mentioned to you, we kind of talked a little bit about this, but I mentioned to you on the phone that if I am scared right now, I as Kyle Tucker am not, but if I am an agent that I'm scared right now, I strongly suggest 2 avenues. One is to seriously consider that other career that you thought about before you became a realtor. If there's security there, if there's not, like, let's talk about it. And I say that respectfully. I don't mean that as a scare tactic. Sure. I say like, look, if you're scared and you don't have a support system before you get into a tight spot, get ahead of it. You can come back to the real estate industry in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Right. But like, go take care of yourself and your family.
Going back to the finances.
Yeah. Do that. Get your stuff right. Yeah. Don't gamble it thinking it could work. Yeah. Could is not. We don't want to be coulding right now. Yep. Right? That's number 1. Number 2 is, or if you're like, you know what, I really want to put my head down and go deeper into this and come out on the other side as a realtor the entire time. I think you need to find someone and you need to piggyback. You need to get in their back pocket and you need to learn, you need to watch, you need to observe, because like we can talk here for however long our session is, but it's not the same as being in the office every day. It's not the same as, when I lost $1.8 million on a deal and people watched how I behaved through that. It's not the same as having a suicide at a property and handling that personally and being on site. It's not the same. And as much as we can talk about those things, it's not the same as being there.
That's big. So like, I think what I'm hearing, and I just want to speak to this, you respond. What I'm hearing is you need to look in the mirror. If you're a realtor or anyone in any industry, frankly, but realtors right now with so much going on, if you're a realtor, and ego aside, judgment aside, look at yourself in the mirror. Don't even talk to your spouse. Don't consult your spouse, anything. And say, do I actually feel confident? Do I actually feel prepared? Do I actually feel like I can persevere through this and navigate these waters? And if you in your heart don't feel like you can do that, I think what I'm hearing Kyle say is you need to attach to somebody that at their core being knows everything's going to be okay. Yep. Because if you can fake it and flex the muscle and say you think it will, but it's going to be a painful ride. There's a lot of changes happening. You got to attach to people. And that's another thing that, similar to what you said, that I've done my whole career. I've always looked to like the baddest dog at any company I've been at, the baddest dog. And I'm like, dude, I want to be you. Tell me what I have to do. And the crazy thing is they'll open up the kimono completely. Like they'll give me all their tricks, and that's how I've been able to navigate and build my career. And I just joined a coaching program with the baddest dog here at my company, and the baddest dog, frankly, in the nation. He's the top producing purchase loan officer in the nation.
I love it.
I just joined a coaching program with him because I know in my heart, like, unfortunately, my personal knowledge has taken me as far as I can get. Yeah. Like, I need some support of somebody that can show me the path. And so I think recognize that in this environment, like, be real with yourself, and it's not a slight to your ego or your business or anything if you go join a team or if you go like partner up with somebody that can guide you, because frankly, that's just like you said it back in 23. You were, I talked to my team a lot about this. Imagine you've got an arrow. Well, at some point you can't just keep firing arrows. At some point you got to use the strength to pull that back before the arrow can fire. And that's what you did in 2023. This is, I think, what I'm hearing us tell these people is like, this might be an opportunity. You got to pull the arrow back, and you've got to maybe put your personal brand aside, so on and so forth, and you'll be better for it in business. Did I get that right? Do you have any?
Yeah, hit it exactly on the head. I think the only thing I'd add is a call. If you fall into one of those two categories, hey, find a position, head out, go somewhere else, come back. We'd love to have you. Don't come back alone. Join with someone regardless. I think you should be under a great mentor regardless till you can lead and be truly a beacon, not a pretend beacon. But or join up now, right? And find those people. So what I do want to say is maybe the final piece to this is like, if you are confident, if you do look in the mirror and you do have that confidence in your heart that like, we've got this, right? We are going to do the distance. We are going to see this as a market expansion opportunity, and not like, oh, well, like, how do I make it market expansion? If you know that you are in position already, I think what I do want to say is you are my peers, you are my allies. to the industry, to the public, and I encourage you to get out there and be more vocal and to bring people to learn from you.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, that's a little more introverted, I don't like to grab the mic and say, follow me. It's so hard because I know a lot of people that grab the mic and say, follow me are not the people we should be following.
Yeah, 100%.
And so that's why I say if you are a little more introverted, but you've got your laces tied up well and you're ready to go and your finances are right and you're ready to help people, let people know that.
Have the courage.
Get out there, put your name out there, put your face out there. I encourage you to do that because we need more trustability. And oftentimes the people that are most trustable stay quiet.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And we need more guidance for, more fundamental, morally right, proper valued people in the industry. And a lot of the people that are loud in the industry aren't teaching that stuff.
Yeah, they're teaching. I mean, I won't go into it because it might feel personal to some, but like, it's just, I really think about, you look at an agent and if you look at their Instagram or their social, is it filled with, I won't use fabricated, even though they're good videos, they're real, but are they trying to drum up business or are they simply just filming what's happening all the time? Like my team, we don't post more than like a fifth of what's actually going on. There's too much happening every day.
Right.
It's like we can't even capture it. And then other people are like, let me support you with the media team so you can capture it all. And I'm like, I don't need more leads right now. I need to take care of human beings.
Yeah.
I need operations. I need systems. I need execution. I need scale. That's what I need. Not more hype, not more marketing, not more sales.
For sure.
Right? And it's such a different mindset. And then when someone looks at me and looks at my history, it's like, oh, you've got that in your past and that and that and that and that. And there's all this history. And that creates, I think it's Dan, I think his Instagram handle is Dan Millionaire Code. He's the laptop guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dan.
From Utah,
Yeah, cryptocurrency, all kinds of cool stuff. Dan's great. And I remember
laptops guy.
PC laptops. That's what I was like, PC laptops. He, he said something once where he put out a thing of all these coaches popping up everywhere. It's a trend, there's coaches. And if you really get down to it, he's like, his advice, he was like, don't receive any coaching from someone who hasn't done it for a decade.
And can't prove it. That's the thing, because people can
no
talk
proof.
Yeah.
And a decade? Proving a decade is a lot harder to find.
Oh, yeah.
Then
it's the 1% of the 1%.
It's like, okay, I just filtered a ton of coaches down.
Yeah, right.
Right? But then you're not being sold. You're not being hyped. It's not a marketing campaign. It's like, I'm going to get value. I'm going to truly get value, and it's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
So, it's just look towards mentors and leaders that have the backing.
Yep. That's
right?
huge.
And respectfully, and I've said this on all my things, and it's not, I don't like to look at me and show my numbers, but like by the age of 30, it was over a $20 million portfolio.
Wow. That's sick, dude.
And it's like, that was built through a lot of fires and through a lot of paying for you're jumping into this coaching program. I know you've been part of other things in the past, which is not a surprise to me to hear that about you. Because you're performing at a high level. And, most people, I figure that not only perform at a high level, but have groundedness and have sustainability, have community, have network, have support. They're not out there alone. And that's what makes them repeatable and continuable and can adjust through change. I mean, I think of right now in the real estate industry is like, what happened to all of us when COVID hit? It was such a different time. And that was navigated in a very unique way. So we've got to pull out the stops and navigate more unique ways now.
Yep.
So,
and you need guidance from people that can actually coach.
Yeah. And like, even people like me who are, great mentors, I can help a lot of people go from 0 to 8 units, 0 to 15 units. I'm really good at like 5 to 20. If you're on that, we call it the scale side. You go above 20 plus, I'm going to bring you in as my peer. And you're going to sit at the table with my mentors. Because like, I'm not the coach at 50 units. Right. But I have coaches at 50 units. Right. And so people don't understand that. It's like, oh, this guy invests and this guy invests. They're therefore equal. No, they're not. Right. And understanding like those components. And not only did I do it, I've repeated it. I have a clientele that's successful of doing it. And in times that were 4 or 5 years ago, and I have starters starting out now that are taking the right steps.
In a challenging market.
Market. Very, very different. Very, very different.
We actually have one of those clients right now. And
starting out.
Yeah, exactly. And you overcame an objection with with actually a pretty high-performing competitor. He's like a legit dude. And you won the deal. A lot of that because of your authenticity and the vulnerability. And just like with confidence, you're like, man, I can deliver something they can't deliver. And you won by that. So that's super cool. I want to say one more thing because I thought this was so fun. Share with what are the tricks and hacks to stay positive and motivated despite these issues. An example of that, which I was stoked when I heard when you and I talked a couple days ago, you're gamifying your business. So you have a goal to lose some pounds off your body. And you've now just kind of transformed that into, all right, team, we're going to sell as many transactions as I lose in body pounds.
Body pounds.
Which is like, how are you gamifying? That's a culture thing. That's like keep business fun thing.
Yeah.
How are you doing that?
It's totally a keep business fun thing. I'm not losing weight to motivate the team. I'm not even trying to lose weight, but I'm working with a holistic doctor and we created a plan and I went on a unique diet starting at the beginning of the year and I'm still dead on. You know, we're in it 3 months now and I'm down to like 27 pounds this year. Nice. And so, you know, I told the team, hey, by end of year, I hope we've bought or sold more homes than what I've lost in pounds. And right now, I think we're sitting at like 20 on the year so far.
That's awesome.
So we're a little behind, but I don't foresee myself, if I lose more than like 60 pounds, I think we're going to have a challenge. So the goal, it kind of aligned. The team was like, we want to do 60 to 80. So I was like, okay, well, I'm winning the race with my physical body right now.
That's awesome.
But I'm not like this bodybuilder guy. I'm not trying to show off. You know, it's been rewarding because I don't know what it was, but towards mid last year, I started formulating a plan of like, I got to transform the body for 2024 for nothing more than being able to perform with more endurance,
100%,
more focus, and more ability for my clients. It really came down to creating that avatar world and nothing to do with a photo or a trip to wherever. It's like, I need to show up. And my team knows now because once I was like, it was really challenging the first 3 or 4 weeks. But then after that, they said I walked around like the sad emoji off of the Disney movie. But after 3 or 4 weeks, like the Energizer Bunny came out and I told the team, I said, you guys better watch out. I'm back to 16 hours a day. And they're like, oh no. and some of them have to tell me to calm down because it's like, stop sending me to-do lists at 4 a.m. or whatever. Because I'll wake up, you know, not that I'm awake naturally at 4 a.m. because I'm not. I hope not to be, but sometimes I'll wake up and I can't sleep and I'll just, tackle tasks and whatnot. So, you know, it's been fun that way. And I think a couple other things I'll just drop for, you know, for those listening to really put in, you know, focus is a key word this year, to put focus into the year is, this might be controversial and some disagree. That's fine. But my team, we are pulling back pretty drastically on our digital footprint.
Oh, interesting.
It's very interesting. And maybe I need to correct that statement. Maybe I should say, we are not focusing on growing our digital footprint.
Got it. Okay.
What we're focused on is old school tactics. I want to shake a hand. I want to go to lunch. I want to buy someone dinner. I want to cook someone dinner. I want to take someone to a show. I want to do things in a very old school way because it's what we're lacking.
Yeah.
We've hedged so far into the, hey, here's my video. Please click the link below. Sign right up and boom. And that's not trustable.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, you could watch a video. Well, video can't watch you.
Yeah.
Listen to a podcast. Podcast can't listen to you.
Yeah.
Right. Read a book. Book can't read you. You need people, personal connections in your life. Community is what I talk about. You need community that is permanent and around you to help you through any of the challenges that come and go, the ebbs and flows. How do we win even more during the good times? How do we stay strong in the tough times? And how do we go about this together?
Yeah, it's big, dude. That's huge. Yeah, so the takeaways there, gamify, make it fun. It's a high-stress environment.
Yeah.
Business is high-stress period, no matter what's going on, even regardless of the extracurricular NAR lawsuits and stuff. So make it fun, but also be tactical, be thoughtful. Like, you're recognizing there's a trend where everything's gotten so digital, so video, so non-human connection, so virtual that it's like, well, let's go get more human because you stand out that way. You're gonna be more successful. Yeah. Then the other thing that I've heard that is such a big message across practically every influencer, and it's something that I've been bought into my whole life, is you got to be in shape. Like, you've got to be able to go to war. Like, I think Ed Milet said it the other day. He said, I think there's even a book on it, but he said this topic of being a corporate athlete. Treat your body as if you are an athlete so you can perform at a level beyond what any of your competitors can perform at. If you're in shape and you're eating right and you're drinking a lot of water, you're just going to outperform your competitors.
What does your 3 o'clock in the afternoon look like compared to someone else that's hitting that afternoon carb? Just, oh my gosh, right? It's like, no, we're focused, we're crunching, we're hitting the next thing, we're showing up to the next thing, we're filming the next bit. Like,
it's like we're shifting into 6th gear at 3 o'clock, not going into neutral.
Not hey, we've made it today.
Yeah.
Let's cash out.
For sure. That's
So,
huge. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for being here. I think there's massive nuggets. You're a stud. I appreciate you being on. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please share this. Real quick, how can they connect with you? We'll put this in the video too, but
Sure.
do you have a social media
Instagram at Kyle Tucker.
Okay.
So it's just Kyle Tucker, KYLETUCKER. That's our strongest platform where we have the most presence. We respond. I personally respond to people. DM us. Like if you want to chat, if you want to go deeper, if you want a meeting, if you want to come on, we've got local events monthly. We've got online events monthly. Like I've mentioned, from a coaching and mentor standpoint, I'm part of it's an investor school. It's called Zen Coast University. That's a nationwide presence, and I help mentor investors. It's not only a Utah thing, but we buy real estate all around the country.
That's awesome.
And I'm analyzing deals all around the country. This past week, I've looked in several states in the South and analyzed several deals, just knowing what's out there, right?
Yeah.
If that's of value to folks that are listening, is like, whether it's an in Utah thing, an out Utah thing, ultimately, I think my brand is, how important is your financial future to you? And, we don't have to own 1 million properties. We don't have to do, stress ourselves out. But like, if we had the question is, if we had just a little bit more financial security, what could that do for our lives?
Big time. Yeah.
Our daughter's kindergarten show, our cousins this, our nephews this or that, our dogs, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What hits home to you? And I think that's where I don't care about the dollars. I care about the show or the practice or the game or the recital. Like, that's what matters.
Cool.
So we'd love to reach out or have you reach out, and we'd love to talk.
Awesome. Cool.
So.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in. For more industry insights, follow us on all platforms at Loans Elevated.
And to get in touch with our team, call or text 801-713-4000 or visit loanselevated.com.